For 300 years, one empire sat at the top of the world, not just in military or economic power, but in everything: science, art, law, trade, culture, and global reach. Its capital city was so massive that every other city on Earth looked like a village by comparison. Neighbors even copied its laws word for word. Sitting at the heart of the Silk Road, the world didn't just know about this empire, they flocked to it. This was the Tang Dynasty, the golden age of China, and quite possibly the most powerful Chinese dynasty to ever exist. Before the Tang, China was absolute chaos. The Great Han Dynasty had collapsed way back in 220 AD. What followed was nearly 4 centuries of total fragmentation. Warlords, rival kingdoms, and steppe invasions led to a population collapse. These were brutal centuries to be alive in China. Then in 581, a man named Yang Jian pulled off the impossible: reunification. He became Emperor Wen of the Sui. This was a massive achievement. After over 300 years of division, China was finally one nation again. Emperor Wen was capable and fair. The Sui dynasty looked promising. Then, his son took the throne. Emperor Yang of Sui is a textbook example of how to inherit a masterpiece and destroy it instantly. He forced an estimated 6 million peasants to dig the Grand Canal, a truly massive engineering project that finally connected the north and south of China. It was a brilliant project, but the human cost was horrific. Hundreds of thousands died just to build it. Next, he launched 3 failed wars against the kingdom of Goguryeo. In the final campaign, he lost 300,000 soldiers. He taxed his people into starvation to fund these military disasters. Rebellions erupted everywhere. By 617, the Sui dynasty was tearing apart at the seams. Into this power vacuum stepped a man named Li Yuan. Li Yuan wasn't just some lucky nobody. He was a high-ranking aristocrat and general who actually had distant blood ties to the Sui royal house itself. He understood the system from the inside out. In 617, as the dynasty collapsed, Li Yuan raised his forces in northern China and marched straight for the capital city of Chang'an. He seized the city. When Emperor Yang was murdered by his own men in the south, Li Yuan declared himself the first emperor of a brand new dynasty, the Tang, taking the throne name Gaozu. But here is the catch. The real military genius behind the scenes wasn't actually Li Yuan. It was his second son, Li Shimin. Shimin was only 18 years old when the rebellion kicked off. He was already a better commander than men twice his age. Over the next decade, he led the campaigns that crushed every rival and unified China by 628. He was brilliant and charismatic, slowly realizing that he had done far more to build the Tang than his older brother, who was technically the heir. The tension between the brothers eventually reached a breaking point. In 626, Li Shimin made his move. At the Xuanwu gate of the imperial palace, Li Shimin and his allies ambushed and killed both of his brothers. He then went straight to his father, Emperor Gaozu, and told him exactly what had happened. Gaozu, left with no other sons, abdicated. Li Shimin became Emperor Taizong. For centuries, historians have debated the Xuanwu Gate incident. Taizong even tried to soften the official records himself, but the result was clear. The Tang now had one of the most capable rulers in Chinese history. What he built next is the reason we still talk about this empire today. Taizong ruled from 626 to 649. This era is known as the reign of Zhengguan, the gold standard of leadership, not just for the Tang, but for all of Chinese history. So what did Taizong actually achieve? First, he overhauled the law. The Tang Code, finished in 653, began during his reign. It was one of the most detailed legal systems in the ancient world. It covered everything from major crimes to administrative rules and family law. It was remarkably precise and humane for its time. In fact, it was so well constructed that the Korean, Japanese, and Vietnamese legal systems adopted large parts of it directly. Second, he bolstered the imperial examination system, known as the Keiju. The idea was simple, but radically ahead of its time. Forget birthright. Instead of handing power to aristocrats based on blood, you test them. Only the smartest scorers get the government jobs. It didn't end privilege overnight, but it cracked open a door that would eventually reshape Chinese society forever. Next, he grew the Tang Empire with calculated aggression. In 630, Tang forces crushed the Eastern Turkic Khaganate. which had been threatening northern China for decades. After that massive win, the tribal leaders gave Tang a new title, Tan Khan. It means Heavenly Khan, a Chinese emperor finally honored in the nomadic Turkic tradition. That shows you the scale of his influence. But this fourth point is what truly sets him apart. Tang surrounded himself with honest advisors, and he actually listened. The most legendary was a man named Wei Zheng. Wei Zheng had actually backed Tang's older brother, the very rival Tang executed at the Xuanwu gate. Any other king would have killed him. Tang made him a senior minister. Wei Zheng then spent years relentlessly challenging the emperor. He openly ripped into the emperor's decisions during court. He wrote sharp memos pointing out every mistake. To his credit, Tang protected him and even rewarded him for his honesty. When Wei Zheng died in 643, Tang stood over his coffin and whispered with a bronze mirror, "A man can adjust his clothes." With history as your mirror, you can see the rise and fall. But with a man as a mirror, you see your own flaws. Wei Zheng was that mirror, and now he is gone. That powerful quote has echoed through China for 1400 years. It still resonates because a leader who genuinely wanted to be corrected is so rare that when it happens, history remembers it forever. Tang died in 649, at 51. The cause? Mercury poisoning from a Taoist elixir. He drank to live forever. His son, Emperor Gaozong, took the throne next. The Tang saga continued, but it took a wild turn because of one woman who had been watching from the palace shadows. Before we dive into the politics, we must talk about Chang'an. To know the Tang, you must know their capital, Chang'an, known today as Xinshan province. At its peak, it was almost certainly the largest and most cosmopolitan city on the face of the earth, spanning roughly 84 square kilometers. It used a precise grid of 108 gated wards. Every ward had walls and gates that locked at night. The Grand Imperial Palace stood at the city's northern edge. The entire layout used mathematical precision to scream power and absolute order to anyone who walked those wide streets. Population estimates for Tang period Chang'an range from 600,000 to over 1 million residents, with another million in the region. For context, medieval London at this time had only 15,000 people. Paris? Maybe 30,000. Even Constantinople, the crown jewel of the West, only had 400,000. Chang'an was in a league of its own. But size wasn't everything. The city was diverse in a way that nothing else on earth could match. Chang'an's West Market was the true western terminus of the Silk Road. There, you would encounter Sogdian merchants from Central Asia, Persian traders, Arab merchants, Indian monks, and Byzantine craftsmen. You could see Japanese students and Syrian glassware all in one afternoon. Spices, gems, and exotic horses flooded in from the entire globe. Moving out, a constant stream of silk, porcelain, tea, and paper. Every religion was welcome. You had Buddhist monasteries, Taoist temples, Zoroastrian fire altars, and even early Christian churches. After the 7th century, early mosques appeared. All these faiths functioned openly within the same city walls. Central Asian culture was everywhere. The pipa, a lute from the West, became the signature sound of the Tang era. Polo, imported from Persia, became the favorite sport of the wealthy elites. Whirling dancers from Sogdian became the most fashionable entertainment at the imperial court. Emperor Xuanzong, who we will meet shortly, he was so passionate about music that he founded the Pear Garden, a formal imperial academy for elite musicians and performers. Thousands of elite performers trained there. Today, 1200 years later, Chinese opera singers still trace their artistic lineage to the Pear Garden. The academy is gone, but the name stuck. Chang'an was not just a capital, it was a bold statement of what an empire could be. The Tang Dynasty built it and held it for nearly 300 years. Now, meet Wu Zetian. She is the most debated figure in all of Chinese history. People have argued about her for 13 centuries. A monster, a brilliant leader, or was she somehow both? Let's look at the cold facts, because the truth is wild enough without any extra help. Born in 624, at age 14, Wu entered the palace as just one of many concubines to Emperor Taizong. When Taizong died in 649, tradition demanded his concubines shave their heads and spend the rest of their days in a silent Buddhist convent. Wu went to the convent, but then Emperor Gaozong, the son and successor, found her during a visit there. He was already obsessed with her from his father's court. He brought her back to the palace as his consort. From that point on, her rise was absolutely relentless. She plotted against Gaozong's wife, Empress Huang, and a rival known simply as Consort Chao. By 655, she was named the new Empress Consort, replacing her rival. The old Empress and Consort Chao were locked away, then executed in ways that history describes in very dark terms. Through the 60s and 70s, Gaozong's health began to fail. He suffered from brutal headaches that modern experts believe might have been a series of strokes. During this time, Wu took over more of the empire's daily work. Official documents began calling the pair the two sages. In reality, she was the one running the empire. When Gaozong died in 683, Wu became the regent for her son. Within 2 months, she dumped him for a younger, more obedient son. By now, the message was clear. She was the only one with real power behind the throne. Then in 690, she stopped pretending. Wu Zetian declared a new dynasty, the Zhou, and named herself its emperor. Not consort, not regent, but the absolute emperor. The sacred title, Son of Heaven, which in Chinese history could only be held by a man with the mandate. She took it anyway. She was the only woman in history to do this. As emperor, she aggressively rebuilt the government exams. She created new exam categories and personally oversaw some of the high-stakes testing. Historians believe she was trying to crush the old noble families. These aristocrats hated her, so she replaced them with officials who owed their entire careers to her. It was smart politics and good policy. She even weaponized Buddhist faith. Texts were spread, claiming she was a reincarnated soul, a divine being sent from heaven to rule the world. She funded massive temples. The famous Longmen grottos, icons of Buddhist art, were built mostly under her direct command and cash. She also ran a massive web of spies and secret police, making it dangerous to ever oppose her. Many members of the imperial family were purged during her reign. She was taking no chances. She was never kind to enemies. In 705, at 81 and dying, a senior court coup forced her to step down and finally restored the Tang Dynasty under her son, Emperor Zhongzong. She died months later. So how do we judge her? Even historians from the later Song dynasty, despite wanting to destroy her legacy, they had to admit she was a highly effective ruler. Under her, the state worked, and the military remained a powerhouse. The exam system she built lasted another 1,000 years. The borders she defended held firm. She was ruthless by any standard, but her capability outmatched almost any ruler in history, man or woman. Both things are true. This complexity is exactly why we are still arguing, even today. After Wu, the Tang hit chaos. Empress Wei tried to copy her rise to power, but failed miserably and met a bloody end. Another coup hit in 710. Finally, a leader arrived who could actually stabilize the nation. Emperor Xuanzong took the throne in 712. He would rule for 44 long years. The first half of his reign, from roughly 713 to 741, is called the Kaiyuan era, the absolute peak of Tang civilization. Honestly, I would argue this was the high point of the entire medieval world. The numbers from this golden era are staggering. Census data from 742 shows a population reaching roughly 50 to 53 million people. Tax revenues hit the highest levels in Tang history. Granaries were overflowing, the military was elite, and trade along the Silk Road had never been more active. Under Emperor Xuanzong, China was, by almost any metric, the most powerful and wealthy state on the planet. And then, there was the culture. Li Bai and Du Fu, the two legends most people name as China's greatest poets, were both active during Xuanzong's reign. Li Bai was the wandering Taoist romantic, supposedly writing poems while drunk on moonlit rivers, celebrating wine, freedom, and the raw beauty of nature. Du Fu was the total opposite. He was a man who watched the empire's struggles with clear, compassionate eyes, writing about war, poverty, and political failure with a radical honesty. These two actually knew each other. They met, they traveled, they drank together. In the grand history of literature, that meeting is like Shakespeare hanging out with Cervantes. A third giant, Wang Wei, also flourished then. He was a high-ranking official, a master painter, and a devout Buddhist. His poetry about solitude and nature created a style that Chinese writers have been imitating for centuries. Even Xuanzong was deeply obsessed with the arts. He was a musician and composer who founded the legendary Pear Garden, that Royal Academy of Performing Arts we mentioned earlier, which trained thousands of elite musicians and performers under direct imperial patronage. But around 740, the vibe began to shift. Xuanzong fell head over heels for a young woman named Yang Yuhuan, better known as Lady Yang. Scandalously, she had originally been the consort of one of his own sons. The emperor forced her into a convent. Then, using a legal loophole everyone saw through, he claimed her as his own consort. Lady Yang's family gained power instantly. Her cousin, Yang Guozong, became the chief minister in 752. He was incompetent. Under his lead, the government began to rot. Good leaders were pushed out. The court became a nest of luxury, greed, and political infighting. Meanwhile, on the frontiers, a storm was gathering. For a century, the Tang had relied on semi-independent military governors, known as jidushi, to protect the borders. These generals controlled their own soldiers, collected their own taxes, and made their own local rules. By the 750s, their combined strength completely eclipsed what the central government could actually deploy. One governor in particular, Lushan, commanded 3 massive frontier armies at the same time. In December 755, Lushan finally made his move with that army. Lushan was the son of a Sogdian and a Turk, a tough, multilingual warrior born on the frontier. He was also incredibly fat, but that did nothing to slow his military genius or his talent for cutthroat court politics. He had charmed the aging Xuanzong to an unbelievable degree. He was even adopted by Lady Yang as a joke, acting as her adult son. He played the fool at court while building the largest private army in existence. On December 16th, 755, he marched south from his base with roughly 160,000 battle-hardened troops. The Tang central government was caught completely off guard. The capital's military had grown soft. The wealth of the Golden Age had made military service very unpopular with the people. Instead of keeping a strong central force, the government had bet everything on those frontier armies. Now, there was almost nothing standing between the rebels and the capital. Luoyang fell in January 756. By July, they had captured Chang'an itself. Xuanzong, now 71 years old, fled his palace at midnight with a tiny escort, heading toward the mountains of Sichuan. Then, at a relay station called Mawei, everything collapsed. The imperial guards protecting the emperor finally mutinied. They killed Yang Guozong, the chief minister, blaming his corruption for the entire bloody catastrophe. But they weren't done. The officers approached the emperor with a chilling demand. Lady Yang had to die. To the soldiers, the logic was brutal but clear. Yang Guozong was her cousin. She was the root of the rot. The Yang family's grip on power had fueled the mismanagement that led to this absolute disaster. The soldiers refused to march until she was dead. Xuanzong tried to fight it. History says he wept. He was 71, standing in a small relay station by the road, watching his entire empire collapse before his eyes. His guards were demanding the order to kill. Finally, he gave it. Gao Lishi led Yang Guifei to a courtyard pear tree beside the station. There, the chief eunuch official strangled her. She was 38. Xuanzong never saw Chang'an again. He lived through the war, but his son declared himself Emperor Suzong in the north to save the dynasty. In 757, he returned to the capital as a retired emperor with zero power. He spent his final years alone, reportedly crying over his lost love until he died. The Lushan rebellion itself raged from 755 to 763. Tang forces needed Uyghur cavalry allies to win, but they demanded a massive price. After paying up, they retook the capitals and finally broke the back of the rebellion. As for Lushan, his own son murdered him in 757. The uprising dragged on under his successors until 763. The human cost of the war was truly catastrophic. A census in 754 recorded a registered population of roughly 52 million people. The 764 census, taken after the war, showed only 17 million people left. Some of that drop was due to people fleeing or administrative chaos, not just death. Modern demographic analysis suggests that famine, disease, and combat likely killed between 13 and 36 million people during the conflict. The Lushan rebellion stands as one of history's deadliest conflicts. Yet, in the West, We almost never talk about this world-changing disaster. The Tang survived, but the empire that emerged in 763 was fundamentally broken compared to 755. Central authority over the distant provinces had been permanently shattered. The Jidushi military governors proved they could field armies that made the emperor irrelevant. Many northern governors who fought for the Tang simply stayed in their territories as independent rulers. They paid a tiny tribute and nothing more. The dynasty lived, but its power died. The last 150 years of Tang history are honestly exhausting. The same tragic patterns just keep repeating themselves. Weak emperors, powerful eunuchs, factional wars, and rebellious governors. It was a cycle of recovery and collapse. Let's look at the structural flaws that finally finished them off. Problem 1. The eunuchs. These palace officials had been a fixture of the court since the dynasty began, just like most Chinese empires. But after the rebellion ended, they seized institutional power at a terrifying speed. By the 800s, they weren't just managing the palace. They were commanding the imperial guard and literally picking the next emperors. In the 800s, eunuch factions crowned multiple emperors, only to remove or kill them once they became inconvenient. The ruler was technically the son of heaven. In reality, he was a prisoner in his own home. Problem 2. The brutal factional struggle. For 40 years in the mid-800s, a bitter split between two groups of officials paralyzed the entire bureaucracy. One side rose through exams, the other from old money. They were named after their leaders, Niu Sengru and Li Deyu. The actual arguments mattered far less than the sheer bitterness of the conflict. The government simply stopped working. Problem 3. The Jidushi. Those semi-independent military governors never gave up their power after the Great Rebellion ended. Massive parts of northern China were basically private kingdoms that only pretended to follow the emperor. When these governors chose to cooperate, things worked out. When they didn't, the court was helpless to stop them. Finally, problem 4. Money. The Tang government faced a chronic revenue crisis after the war. The salt monopoly was their main source of cash, but massive smuggling networks turned it into a black market the state could never control. One of the leaders behind these networks, Chao, would soon become the most dangerous man in all China. He was born into a family of salt merchants in Shandong province. He was smart enough to take the imperial exams, but he failed them over and over again. Whether that failure radicalized him or if he would have ended up there regardless is impossible to say. Records show that by the 870s, he was running massive salt smuggling rings and leading a private army. In 874, after a drought and famine crippled northern China, Chao joined a peasant revolt led by a man named Wang Xianzi. When Wang died in battle in 878, Chao took command of the entire movement. What followed was one of the most legendary marches in all of medieval history. Chao led his army across the breadth of China, south to Guangzhou, then back north across the Yangtze River toward the capitals. The Tang defenses fell. In 881, he seized Chang'an and declared himself emperor of a new dynasty, the Qi. His forces committed horrific atrocities. Reports from the time describe mass killings in Guangzhou that claimed tens of thousands of lives, including thousands of foreign merchants from Arab and Persian lands and Jewish traders who had lived there for generations. Chao seized the capital, but he could not hold it. Tang forces, helped by Shattuo Turkic cavalry under a commander named Li Qiyong, launched a massive counterattack. By 883, Chao had been forced out of Chang'an. He was finally defeated and killed in 884. Chang'an never recovered. The city that was once a wonder of the world was gutted. It would never again reach the size or cultural influence it held during the peak of the Tang. The Tang dynasty that survived the rebellion was barely a dynasty at all. Real power now belonged to a few rival warlords. Some of these men had fought for the Tang during the uprising, but one man, Zhu Wen, had actually started on Chao's side. Zhu Wen started as a rebel, but in 882, he switched sides to join the Tang. He was rewarded with powerful military positions for his betrayal. Over the next 20 years, he used his power to build a base in the northeast, playing rivals against each other and systematically eliminating his enemies. By the early 900s, he was the most powerful man in China. The Tang Emperor Zhao was essentially nothing more than his hostage. In 903, Zhu Wen moved against the palace eunuchs. He rounded up over 300 of them in one night and had them all killed. The eunuchs, despite their faults, had at least been a legitimate part of the court. With them gone, there was nothing left to stop Zhu Wen from taking total control. In 904, Zhu Wen murdered the emperor and replaced him with a 13-year-old boy. The child emperor had no real power. By 907, Zhu Wen dropped the act and forced the young emperor to formally give up his power. The Tang Dynasty's long reign was over. Zhu Wen declared his own dynasty, the later Liang, and finally took the throne. The boy emperor was sent into house arrest. In 908, at just 17 years old, Zhu Wen had him poisoned. A dynasty that began with Li Shimin killing his brothers at the Xuanwu gate ended with a child emperor poisoned by the man who stole his throne. What followed the Tang was a period known as the 5 Dynasties and 10 Kingdoms. 53 years of chaos and rival states followed, with none of them strong enough to bring China back together. That reunification finally arrived in 960 when the Song dynasty united the land. But that is a story for another time. So, after the Golden Age, the wars, and the long collapse, what was the real legacy the Tang left behind? Their influence is greater than almost any other dynasty in Chinese history. During the Tang peak, Japan sent massive embassy missions called the Kentoshi to China to study Tang law, government, art, and religion. This led to the Nara period in Japan, an attempt to rebuild the Tang on Japanese soil. Even Nara city was modeled on Chang'an's famous grid. The entire Japanese government was reorganized to match the Tang bureaucratic system. Buddhism, as it was practiced during the Tang, became the dominant faith across all of Japan. Back in the 7th century, the unified Silla kingdom pulled the Korean peninsula together while maintaining a close, if sometimes tense, relationship with the Tang. Scholars studied in Chang'an, while Korean officials modeled the government after Tang systems. Tang cultural influence on Korea endured for centuries, long after the dynasty had vanished. The Tang Code, started by Taizong and finished by Gaozong, became the legal blueprint for East Asia. Even Japan's Taiho Code of 701 drew directly from it. Vietnam's legal traditions were shaped by these rules. And Korean legal development was heavily influenced too. When it comes to legal legacies, few ancient documents impacted so many different societies. The Tang era turned classical Chinese poetry into a perfected art form. Thinkers like Li Bai, Du Fu, Wang Wei, and Bai Juyi. Children in Chinese schools are still required to memorize these legendary poets today. The Tang's civil service exams required candidates to write poetry. For 1,000 years after, this changed everything. Every Chinese official had to be literate in both prose and verse. These legendary poets set the bar. They were the standard everyone was measured against. Woodblock printing, the process of carving text into wood to make copies, was also commercialized during the Tang period. The Diamond Sutra, the world's oldest printed book, was produced in 868 AD during the late Tang. Printing made books much cheaper. Affordable books spread literacy. This sparked a chain reaction leading to Gutenberg and the massive information revolutions of our modern world. Then, there is the name. In Chinese communities worldwide, from Southeast Asia and North America to Europe and Australia, millions of overseas Chinese still call themselves Tángrén, Tang people. Not Han, and not just Chinese in a general sense. Tang people. A dynasty that ended in 907 is still woven into how they identify today. Chinatowns worldwide are known as Tangrenji, literally meaning the streets of the Tang people. That is what happens when a dynasty gets it right. Even after the fall, its name outlasts the empire by over 1,000 years. That is the Tang's 289-year history. If you watched until the end, you now know the complete arc of one of the most vital civilizations in human history. If you enjoyed this history, hit the like button. Subscribe if you want more storytelling like this. Comment below and tell me which dynasty to cover next. The Han, the Song, the Ming, or the Qing. Leave your choice in the comments below. I will see you in the next video.